Hi, let's go through setting up your variables, how to name the variables and enter them into SPSS. Additionally, I'm going to take a few minutes and show you how to transform a variable and compute a variable, so you can see how to do that and make sure that you're doing that as you wish. I'm going to go ahead and hide my son peeking out there so that you have more of a screen to see. So let's take a look. On the handout I gave you, it talks about a chemistry class experiment and the boiling temperature of water. It also gives you raw data, and it tells you how to name your data and what type of data to use and how long to make your strings. Now when you enter your data, you want to go into variable view, so you just want to click right there to get into variable view, and then just enter in the information. So we're going to enter in a name for boiling temperature. Now when you give it a name, you always want to use a short word. You don't want to put boiling temperature in there. That's too large. You need something that's going to fit at the top of your column when you go over to data view. So let's just call it temp, because that'll fit nicely. We want the type of variable that it is. It's numeric. It tells us to use numeric, and it says 5.2. That means we want to use a width of 5 and a decimal value of 2. Now we can either go into the column of width over here and enter 5, or we can just stay here in the numeric type and just change those values right here, which is what I like to do. I like to do it all at the same time. Now let's come down here and tell it what type of measure we're working with. This is going to be a scale variable, and then we can come down and enter the next. The next variable is going to be gender. So let's go down to gender, and it tells us to use string. So let's change it to string, and it says to make it 1. So let's make that a 1 and move on. So we either want nominal or ordinal. So since there's no order to gender, we're going to use nominal. So the next one is going to be age. We'll use age, and age should be numeric, and we want 5 with 0. Click OK, and we're going to make that a scale variable. And the last one is going to be, let's see, grade, age. I know there's one more, I'm just not seeing it. Okay, it should be grade. Sorry, thought I already entered grade. Grade, and grade is going to be a string variable, and it says to give that spaces of 2. So we're going to use 2. Now, grade can have order. We can rank those in order, so we're going to make that ordinal. And that's going to be it for that. And I inadvertently entered in by clicking there, so I don't want to do that. All right, so then what I'm going to do is enter in my data. So under temperature, I have a 99, a 103.1, a 97.4, a 140, and a 101.2, and I'm going to pause it while I enter the rest of the data so I don't take up a lot of space. Okay, so now I have my grades entered. I have everything entered in, and you can see for gender I have male, female, male, female, female. All right, I have MF, MF, F. The next thing it tells me to do is to create value labels for the gender of the student, and what that means is we want to have somewhere where it actually says male and female. So I'm going to go back to variable view, and I'm going to go up under values in the gender column, and I'm going to put in value and label. So for male, I'm going to have M is going to actually be male, and for female, it's going to be female. Whoops, I need to stay consistent here. And then I'm going to click OK. And so what that's going to do for me is allow me to see male and female. Now if I swap that out, I'll get M and F, or male and female, depending on how I want to view my data. So I can either see male and female or M and F. Okay. So the next thing is a transform compute command, and that's kind of a little tricky until you get used to doing it. So we go back to variable view, and we're going to actually generate a new variable based on a calculation applied to one of the variables that's already here, and it's going to be applied to the temperature variable. So it's going to be called the squared error variable. That's the name that we want to give it. So what we want to do is go up to the top and click on Transform, Compute Variable. Now I don't think you can see that. I think that might be off the screen, but if you look up at the top of your screen, you're going to see Transform Compute. And when you click that, a new dialog box is going to open, and you have several boxes into which to type. Now the target variable, that's asking you, what do I want to name my new variable? So my new variable, they ask us to name squared error. Okay, and then over here in the numeric expression, that's saying how am I going to accomplish the squared error? So I need to enter the formula by which that's going to be computed. So I see that it should be done by something inside parentheses, so I'm going to put some parentheses there. Now it uses the boiling temperature value, so I go over here and I click on temp. And then I put temp in there. So what that tells SPSS to do is to go over to the temperature column of data and grab a value out of that column and use that in the operation. And then I need to subtract 100 because that's what it told me to do. And then I need to square that whole thing. So I need to come outside of the parentheses, and these two little asterisks right here, this is like your caret key on the keyboard. So this tells me, or tells SPSS, that the next thing is an exponent. So if I click that and then put a 2, there's my squared. And then if I click OK, oh, I have an illegal character. I'm not sure what it is, but let me go see what it is. Okay, I have no idea why it's spit back an error, but I don't know. Anyway, so here I renamed it error. I think maybe it just didn't like the way I had named it. So I'm going to start from scratch, and that happens sometimes. Sometimes programs just don't like what you put in them, and you have to just kind of treat them nicely and give them what they like. So I'm doing temp minus, and I'm going to use the numbers in here, which you may not have to do, but that's what I'm doing because it seems to like it. Again, use the double asterisk here to tell it you're putting in an exponent, and I'm going to put a 2 here, and then I'm going to click OK. And what's going to happen is SPSS generates an output window. It always does that. Anytime you process something, you can just close that window out. And you don't necessarily need to save that window. It always asks you if you want to save that window. I never do unless I'm doing something that I need to save all that coding for, but I never need to. So I just close that and I say no, I don't need to save my output viewer. And what you'll see when you come back to your data view, you see you have a new column of data that's been calculated based on your formula. You can go back and look at your variable view and see your new variable that you created using Transform Compute. So that should get you through the first problem on that worksheet that I gave you, and that same skill will be applied down here on number 4, where you need to use the Celsius or centigrade formula. Okay, so that should work well for you to complete this sheet, and you should have everything you need in order to do that. All right.